My name is Ben, just a regular single office worker in my 40s. I've had girlfriends that I've thought about marrying, but it's not like I'm violent, careless with money, overly possessive, or have any significant issues. I just haven't found the right timing to marry, so I've stayed single. But at this age, being single and just a regular employee, the looks I get from people around me are pretty harsh. Well, I've been treated this way since my late 30s, so you could say I'm used to it. But I'm a human, it does hurt sometimes. The one who manages to hurt me the most is a young woman who's been with the company for 2 years. There are rumors that she was hired for her looks. She's pretty enough to be our receptionist, which makes her quite a beauty. It's hard not to feel belittled by her, who's young, beautiful, and popular. It's impossible not to be hurt when you're a low-paid old guy being made fun of at every social event. This woman, named Mira, is very outgoing and friendly to just about everyone, but for some reason, she treats me with a cold attitude. Since I'm in sales and Mira is a receptionist, we don't interact much, but she ignores me every time I pass by the reception desk.
Ben, did you do something to Mira?
Even my colleagues have noticed how visibly Mira dislikes me, but I honestly have no idea why. I've never spoken to Mira, let alone made eye contact with her. One day, there was another company social event, and as always, I was the butt of Mira's jokes. I'm nearly 20 years older than her, so getting upset would seem childish. I just laugh it off, but I was completely exhausted on my way home. To shake off these indescribable feelings, I ended up drinking quite a bit that day. Maybe I should walk a bit to sober up. On my way home after the party, I took a detour and walked a different route than usual. Then, I saw a woman and a child walking a little way ahead. I thought they probably just came out of the nearby convenience store.
Can I eat my ice cream now?
The boy asked, to which the woman responded in a gentle voice.
Sure, why not? Go ahead and enjoy it.
It was such a heartwarming scene. I couldn't see her face, but I got the feeling she was quite young. Her voice was considerably gentler than Myra's, who was about the same age. As I was thinking this,
Sorry. I forgot to buy milk. Can we go back?
the woman said this and turned around. Ha!
Huh.
Both of us spoke at the same time. The reason I reacted that way was because the woman was Mira. Mira, upon noticing me, looked puzzled as if wondering why I was there.
Who's this old guy?
When the boy asked Mira.
I don't know, some stranger.
And with that, Mira and the boy left. A stranger, huh? I thought it was harsh to say about a senior coworker. But I never would have imagined that the owner of that kind voice was Mira. Was that boy her brother? Or did she have a son? Even though I was a bit curious, I decided not to ask because I didn't want to risk being accused of harassment. However, surprisingly, Mira came up to me the next day. I was getting teased by people around me, saying things like, she's trying to swindle you, or she's doing the sugar baby thing, so I wished she wouldn't call me over. But I didn't want any trouble later, so I went to Mira as she asked. Then she said,
The boy from yesterday is my younger brother.
Mira began speaking without me even asking. Oh, really? Honestly, that was the only reaction I could muster. She's not exactly a friendly colleague, but someone who has constantly made fun of me. I'm not the kind of person who can suddenly be friendly. Then Mira started to talk about her family background, without me asking. She and the boy from yesterday are half-siblings. Their mother passed away from an illness a few years ago. After that, they lived with Myra's stepmother, who is the boy's biological mother. Their father, it seems, was never a loving man. He had a low income, and they were poor. To make matters worse, he ran away with another woman when Mira was in college. Both Mira and the boy seem to have had their fair share of hardships. That must have been tough, was all I could manage to say. I half expected her to retort with something like,
"Why did I even bother confiding in an old man who can't give me anything but bland replies?"
But surprisingly, Mira didn't say anything of the sort. Instead, she continued her monologue, stating,
"I want to make my brother happy. I don't want him to suffer anymore."
It was as if she hadn't been expecting any reaction from me in the first place.
"Do you have a family, Ben?"
Mira asked, surprisingly taking interest in my life after her lengthy talk. No, I'm single. Haven't seen my parents in a while since they live separately. I replied.
"I see."
She said, "That's it that I thought. I always assumed she made fun of me because I'm single at this age, but it seems like Mira didn't even know that. I guess that means she was looking down on me for other reasons, which is kind of a blow." While I was mulling over this, Mira left me with one last remark.
"It's probably best not to start a family if you're not earning much."
I wasn't sure if I was being mocked again. Sure, I don't earn much, and I don't plan to start a family, but why do I have to hear it from Mira? A moment ago, I was feeling sorry for her knowing her hardships, but that feeling was quickly replaced by my usual resentment. Or maybe she was talking about her own father. Either way, I couldn't make sense of Myra's words. As I returned to the office after the break, one of the younger colleagues who was fond of me came over.
What were you talking with Mira about?
He immediately asked. His name was Noah, a slightly older male coworker who has been working with me for a long time, and we are casual enough to speak to each other informally. "Why are you so interested? I don't even understand what happened." I replied.
Did she tease you again? Women are so hard to understand. Remember not to harass her.
He joked. "I would never do such a thing," I retorted, feeling exhausted from Myra's perplexing behavior, while Noah chuckled and made fun of me. From then on, Mira started calling on me more frequently, and most of the time it was to talk about her younger brother. She also talked about her absent family and how much she had struggled. I was merely a listener, providing no real consolation or advice. I honestly thought she could find better people to confide in. But I couldn't understand why she was sharing her personal problems with me, whom she was supposed to dislike. And before I knew it, odd rumors started to circulate in the office.
"Did you know Mira is into older men? It's a May-December romance, isn't it?"
Such teasing remarks started to become common. No matter how vehemently I denied them, people would just dismiss it as my being shy. Of course, I saw no sign of Mira having any feelings for me either.
"It must be nice to be liked by a younger woman,"
people would say. Even if it were true, I didn't have the confidence to carry on a serious relationship with a woman young enough to be my daughter. But because of these rumors, I became unusually conscious of Mira and I found myself in a state of constant confusion. Then, Mira called on me again during a break. After listening to her usual stories about her brother, I decided to address the issue that had been on my mind. "I think you know about the rumors circulating about us, Mira. They can't be pleasant for you either." Wouldn't it be better to talk to a colleague who's closer to your age? It's not that I didn't want to listen to Mira, but honestly, it would make things easier for me. I just couldn't help being bothered by everyone's stares. But Myra's response took me by surprise.
I don't mind if rumors circulate.
She said, looking down. Huh? Her demeanor seemed different from usual, and I couldn't help but wonder, did she just admit something? Should I allow her to continue, or stop her if I wasn't prepared to reciprocate her feelings? It had been so long since I'd been in such a situation that I wasn't sure what to do. Then Mira asked,
Are these rumors circulating in your department, Ben?
Yes, they are. I replied when she asked me if the rumors were circulating. She then asked,
Who's spreading them?
Even though she had just said she didn't mind, she seemed pretty concerned. Well, Noah for one. I said. When I mentioned Noah's name, I noticed a change in Myra's expression.
I see.
She said, looking down. But her demeanor was clearly off. Noah. I repeated his name, and Mira was visibly flustered. That's when it hit me. We, my colleagues and I, had made a big misunderstanding. After listening to Mira, I finally understood the meaning behind her strange behavior over the past few months. Apparently, she had been dating Noah since last summer when she joined the company. But this spring, Noah brought up marriage, and Mira began to seriously consider her future. The first thing that came to her mind was her father, who had caused her and her brother so much hardship. She thought that if her father had been more responsible, maybe her mother wouldn't have died from her illness. Mira wanted to marry a man with a high income so she wouldn't impose any hardship on her brother or any future children. However, the salaries at our company are not high. Honestly, they're on the lower end of the spectrum for a typical salaried worker, with hardly any promotions or allowances. There was no expectation of a significant increase in income in the future. For Mira, who was very focused on future stability, marrying Noah was a huge risk. So she broke up with him. She had been badmouthing me, a 40-year-old low-wage earner, to make it clear to Noah that there was no chance of them getting back together. It turns out I was just caught in the crossfire. This was a problem between Mira and Noah and had nothing to do with me. I was merely caught in the crossfire. However, I couldn't ignore the situation because Noah is a cherished colleague who looks up to me, and despite her reckless and extreme thinking, I know Mira is a hard-working girl who means well. And I felt their story overlapped with my past experiences. No one can tell who Mira should spend her life with. I can't just tell her that love is all you need, not money. But if you really find a lifelong partner, regardless of whether you have money or not, you might be able to share simple joys together. I believe if we don't forget this feeling, we can overcome anything. That's what I would like to believe. It's what I wish I could tell my younger self. Actually, when I was in my 20s, I had a girlfriend who I thought I would marry. But she ended up in an arranged meeting with the heir of a large corporation, and she tried to turn it down. But I, a low-wage earner, couldn't hold her back. I thought she might be happier marrying him than staying with me. I've always regretted that. Listening to Myra's story, I couldn't consider it someone else's business. Before I knew it, Mira was crying. As I was flustered, she snapped.
For an old man, you say nice things.
I thought it was typical of her to make such a remark even when Noah wasn't around, but I let it slide because she was crying. Afterwards, with a seemingly refreshed look on her face, Mira said,
I'll think it over more carefully.
which eased my worries. After that, Mira stopped calling me out. Instead, she started asking,
Noah, have you finished work?
and welcoming him. Noah would rush over to her with a happy expression on his face. I was truly relieved when the two of them got back together. But my colleagues, who knew nothing about the situation, looked at me sympathetically. It was unbearable, but it was nothing new to see me getting the short end of the stick. Well, let it be. A year later, Mira and Noah held a wedding ceremony, and they even invited me. Seeing Mira, who I once thought was an outrageous woman, smiling happily with Noah now, I felt glad for them. Looking back, those series of events might not have been so bad for me. After the ceremony ended, it was time for the reception. Mira, in her wedding dress, came over to me and said,
I never mentioned this before.
What followed was quite unexpected.
You know, Ben, you remind me of my father. You're an underpaid old man who doesn't seem to mind it, and you're always drinking milk tea. That's probably why I've been bothered by you all this time.
Mira said this with a mischievous smile. Well, that's just like Mira. Is that so? I responded with a sigh. But then Mira continued.
But I really loved my father. That might be why I relied on you. Thank you for pushing me forward.
Mira smiled at me for what felt like the first time. Looking back on it, I might indeed have felt like a father to her. Here's hoping my troublesome daughter and son continue to be happy from now on. All I could do was whisper a prayer.